Hey, welcome back to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is Season 1, Episode 30, which means we've been on this financial education and business mindset train for 10 episodes as of today. So thank you once again to all of your feedback and encouragement and your loving comments and words and questions that keep me going. You're giving me ideas and inspirations every single day on what you want covered. So I've got a long list coming up. It's really funny because last week when I started doing this, I thought it was just going to be a 1 week kind of thing. However, it's turning into this huge discussions, and I'm so happy that a lot of you are taking value out of this, and we're going to keep this going for as long as you want to keep this going, because at the end of the day, like I mentioned yesterday, I'm really only responding to what it is that you are looking for, because there was really no preset agenda. The whole idea about my Daily Dose with Tim was to really share with you how I kind of got to where I am in life. And I know that over the last few years there's been a certain following, and I'm really humble and really grateful for that, simply because all I really want to do is to show everybody that if an immigrant kid started real estate investing in his 20s, can achieve certain results and free himself and help other people become financially well off, anybody can do this. And that's really all I wanted to do. And I just wanted to create that platform. And I understand, because of COVID and everybody staying home, there's a lot of stuff out there, and we're getting inundated with just people posting random stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I just got onto TikTok myself, and I'm kind of scrolling through going, I'm too old for this. Anyways, I digress. The whole point is, today we're actually going to be talking about cash on cash return versus return on investment, and what is the real difference. And the funny thing is, I understand that a lot of investors actually use them interchangeably. So I'm going to write this out for you, even though it's already in the title. Okay, so cash on cash return versus return on investment. I probably should have spaced this out a little better. It's looking a little funky. Oh yeah, I can see that on my screen now. It doesn't look all that great. However, it doesn't matter. It's the concept that really counts. So I want you guys to remember, so cash on cash is actually very straightforward to understand, in the sense that whenever you actually see what the banks are posting in terms of the interest rates that they're paying you, that is a straightforward cash on cash return. So for example, let's say you put $100 in your savings account, and a year from now you get $110 in your bank account, and assuming you didn't put any of that extra $10 in there, and that's pure interest, well, then your cash on cash in that case, well, is 110 minus the $100 divided by the original $100 you put in there. Then you have a 10% interest right there. So cash on cash, most of us know it as actually just regular interest rate. And so hopefully that makes it very clear, because it's how much in versus how much out. And so you take the difference, and there you have it, and that's your interest rate. And that's actually commonly known as cash on cash return in our world. Now, the other one is return on investment. Now, I personally do not like it when people mix them together, because to me it makes no sense whatsoever. And here is why. A lot of people, like what we keep saying, we buy and sell so that we can create capital, so that we can buy and hold to create long-term wealth. So as we're holding on to the properties, for example, it could be a business, could be anything else really. The concept is the same. Every single year, you're going to have your performance statement, and that's usually your income and expense. So you get your revenues, you deduct your expenses, and you deduct your debt servicing, and then you get your cash flow. And then you take that cash flow and you divide that by the original or initial investment money that you go into it. So as you can see now, cash on cash return, as you're holding onto a property, can actually change every single year, because there's so many different other factors that actually come before it. And one of the biggest ones being, well, when you're doing debt servicing, for example, assuming that you're renewing, your mortgage, your loans, however you have to do to put the deals together to actually get the funding together, then that's how you would actually get a different cash on cash. Now, when I use return on investment, that is actually typically calculated in a strategy like lease option, for example, or the street name for that is rent to own. Or let's say if some of you guys are doing burrs or flips, the point is, I hope that the dots are connecting, is that there is a clear beginning and there's a clear end to a deal. So the way we look at it is that, typically speaking, in every transaction, there are three main stages, depending on what your exit strategy is. So you have your acquisition phase, and then you're going to have your value add. Because remember, if it's property first, then typically what we do is we force appreciate. So that's when you add value to the property to elevate that after repair value, or a lot of us call it ARV. That's the lingo, okay? And at the very end, you have your exit. So let's say if you actually have a tenant first strategy, then you would have a cash flowing phase. It's not to say that we don't do the value add. However, for the most part, when most investors actually are implementing the tenant first approach, we typically would buy move-in ready types of properties. So not a whole lot of work is needed. The whole idea though is that there's a clear entry, there's a clear exit, so that anything that you've made in between, you know exactly how to calculate the return on your overall investment. And that is the biggest difference of them all. Because when you're only looking at cash on cash, honestly though, even if you're going into a tenant first lease option situation, your cash on cash still changes a little bit, okay? And so I just want to make sure that everybody is actually on the same page. So by definition, when would you actually use cash on cash? Your typical income properties, okay? And remember, that income properties is really the general umbrella, if you will. So when we're talking about income properties, usually a lot of us are thinking single family homes, and single family homes you can have 1 unit, or you can actually go up to, again, 2 units, as in duplexes. That's what a lot of you folks are calling it in Ontario. Out west here, we call it suite of property. At the end of the day, the major difference really is not that big. The common concept here is 1 roof, 1 title, 2 income producing units. And that's what we're talking about, 1 unit versus 2 units. On the West Coast though, when we call something a duplex, it's very different from what the folks out east are calling it. Because on the West Coast, when we say a duplex, it's 1 roof and there's a common wall. However, 2 separate titles. And this is why I think tomorrow on Strategically Positive, we're going to be covering infills, for example. So if zoning permits, you can actually build a suited duplex right here on the West Coast, so between BC and Alberta especially, that's how we call them. Technically, if you have a suited duplex, that could actually be seen as 4 income producing units right off the bat. However, again, that is a single family home. However, that is also not just 2 units anymore. So you get up to about 4 units right there. In that case, it is still 2 titles, okay, not 4. Still 2 titles and not 4. And then most of us, when we want to scale, we like to go into what we call multi-unit residentials. That means 1 title under 1 roof, and you get more units within. So that's where you guys can start to see the 4plexes and 6plexes, 8plexes, or 12, 24, whatever the number is, multi-unit residential, however, 1 title, okay? And so 1 title, the main separation between that is Well, it's not a condo building because condo building by definition is every unit within that building has its own separate title. And this is why some of you may have heard of the strategies, if you're more advanced, is what we call condominiumization. Okay, so you can condonize something and taking an existing older building and then soup it up and do what you got to do, go through the city regulations, the zoning changes, the permits, and all that kind of good stuff. So that's what we're talking about here. And income properties, as you guys already know, it also covers commercial. So commercial buildings as well as mobile home parks and maybe even storage. I mean, storage a lot of the times falls into the commercial arena as well. So it really just depends on how you classify things. It's just that, again, anything that falls under income properties, because by definition you're probably hanging on to them for a bit of a longer term. And I always like to joke that properties are like people. Properties are like people. The older we get, the more problems we have, and usually the more it costs to maintain. So by definition, if you think about it, unless, for example, you bought something 10 years ago, where interest rates, let's say, I'm just going to use the residential rates as a frame of reference for most of you here. Let's say the interest rate 10 years ago was about 4.5 to 5.5. However, you renew that now, your rate has probably dropped as a result, then your cash on cash could potentially increase. However, by definition, remember, when we calculate your cash flow, it's revenue minus expenses. The older we get, the more problems we have, the more we need to budget for expenses. Because within expenses, I think this is something that we're going to be covering next week as well, because a lot of you guys are asking, how do I actually calculate true cash flow on an income property? Because I understand that so many of you are getting sent opportunities, especially from realtors, and this is not to single anybody out, because a lot of the times realtors assume that you're going to be personally managing all your properties. And I don't know about you, I didn't get into this business to earn myself a second job or to create a second job for myself. If that's the case, I would have bought the franchise 10, 11 years ago when I was looking at it. However, the whole point is when we're doing the calculations as investors, the end goal has always been to put in as little time as we possibly can so we can free our time up and really delegate the duties out and responsibilities so that we can actually focus on what we truly want to do, which is making the money work harder for us. And it could be our money, it could be OPM, could be a combination of, okay? And so that's something that we're definitely going to cover. I digress. Coming back here though, just remember, cash on cash, typically speaking, over time drops. So I just want everybody to really remember that, because I know this is something that we all sort of fall into. And me personally, me and Ray, we both did the same thing. When we ran the numbers, we only look at what the deal is performing at now, forgetting the fact that, well, guess what? Even if you're only counting PITI payments, remember we talked about PITI, P-I-T-I, principal, interest, taxes, insurance. Principal and interest basically adds up to your monthly mortgage payment, okay? So P-I-T-I, even if you're only counting your PITI payments, guess what? Those payments increase over time. So unless your revenue is catching up at the same rate, typically speaking, your cash on cash is still going to decrease over time as well. Because when was the last time property taxes went down? You tell me. When was the last time insurance quotes or insurance expenses went down? At least personally, have not experienced it. And if you have, I am all ears. Let me know who you deal with, and you call me, you message me, you let me know, because we got a portfolio that we can port over, maybe increase our return on investment, and there's a bottle of wine in there for you. So the whole point though is, when you're talking about income properties, typically this is what you would use, okay? Return on investment right off the bat, usually it would be on strategies like lease options. It would be strategies like your flips, aka I'm gonna say maybe BRRRR. BRRRR, a lot of the times you can still flip, or you can turn that into a holding property as well. So I hope that this makes it a bit more clear, and just want to let you know that this could be a personal pet peeve. Some of you guys will still say, hey, you know what, I don't care what you think. I'm just going to stick to using return on investment as my general term. That is your choice. That's your business decision, and I totally respect that. However, I do just want to put a piece out there because I do feel like over the last few years, the concept was very muddied and it does not communicate a clear picture. Because for us to do this, to run this as a business, guess what? If the return on investment, okay, if the return on our money is going down, period, see what I just did there, we need to be looking at other opportunities to make sure that over time we're either maintaining the same level or growing still, okay? That's what a business usually does. Who wants to invest in a business where the return on their money is going down? I don't think so. So this is why I really want to make sure that you guys, depending on who's watching, and if you have the aspiration or if you're already in this business, make it very clear for yourself, because that way you can truly measure the performance of your business and your portfolios year after year with an objective view, so that this actually helps you to go out there and speak to your investors to get OPM, to continue to invest in your projects and your deals. So that's it for today, and we're Friday now, so have a great weekend, everybody. A lot of you guys know tomorrow is Saturday, July 11th, which means we actually have our session 2 of the private lending bootcamp. And if you are curious of what that is, well, I'm gonna post that link right in the comments section as well. If you haven't joined us yet, make sure you enroll in the group. It's all recorded, so even if you're not able to make it real time, make sure that you come back and watch the recordings as well. Tomorrow, we're gonna go over Joint Ventures 101, so that's gonna be exciting. Now, every single day during the week, Monday to Friday, you know that I'm going to come to you Facebook Live at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look forward to seeing you again next Monday, and have a great evening and enjoy your summer weekend right now. It's super nice today in Edmonton, so wherever you are watching, I hope you're enjoying the great weather that we are today too. So live well, everybody. I'll see you later.